Okay. The sound worked that time. I heard it. It makes no sense. I don't know what's going on. If you see me looking over to my right, it's because that's where I have OBS and that's how I'm monitoring chat. So that's how I can see what I'm doing. But I have the thing, the camera set up so that way it looks like I'm looking over at the screen, like as if we were all hanging out together. Danger Hobo says, I can wait though. It seems like not a big deal to get in early. Let's see. Northwind Trooper, we're getting back to the usual programming this next week. So this next week we should have an ISC and an SCL. Sounds really weird, but they should. No wires, Bluetooth. Yeah, it's just an OBS being OBS. But as long as everything's working and the output sounds fine on your guys' end, that's all that matters. Is you guys being able to hear things. If I can't hear the transition, I do have I have a Stream Deck Plus. And so when I'm changing windows, I just press a button. Pretty handy. I love it. He meant with the skull. I don't think it's with the Stream Deck because I pressed the button to do the change from scene when it first went over from the intro video to the first, just what I call the chatting screen. So I don't know, man. He meant with the skull. Yeah, definitely wires loose up there. So let's go ahead. We've got the CitizenCon Taking Flight presentation up. I'm going to go ahead and copy the link, drop it into chat. And then let's make it big. And let's get started. We get to hear from Yogi. Yogi is the man. He's the patron saint of dogfighting and patience because he has to deal with a lot of really salty people on Spectrum who are completely incapable of providing constructive criticism. There's some that comes out, but there's a lot of people who are just rude, straight up rude with their feedback, if you can call it that.
Hello, everyone. Is my mic on? Okay. Can you hear me? Fine. These are the wrong slides. Hang on. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Yogi Klatt. I'm a principal vehicle programmer at Cloud Imperium Games, and I focus on space flight and space combat. I really love my job, so this is why I'm really excited to show you the progress that we did on Squadron 42 in the last 2 years. So there's two things I need to say here. First thing is, we're doing a live demo, and the build is about 12 hours old, so there is a good chance. There is a good chance for bugs, which, if you see them, just look away. It will be fine. The second thing is, I'm not flying myself today. It will be Brent Gunzinger. He's using a setup of 2 VKB sticks, so left and right HOSA setup from VKB, and he's also using the fantastic Toby device. So we'll swap during the presentation between using head tracking and not using head tracking. But the good thing is, the relationship between you and your starship, it doesn't start when you take off. It starts way before that. There's a lot of stuff we do now in pre-flight. So please welcome back Ines Caldas, who will walk us through that process.
Yogi, Northern Trooper says, Yogi was awesome to talk to at the party. We flipped our hair together. That's awesome. Speaking of hair flips, though, that is one animation I want to see, is to include that with the removing your helmet, being able to remove your helmet, and if your character has long hair, being able to do a hair flip. Because the joke between me and my squad leader with my unit, he has beautiful hair, He's in the army, and it's long enough that like he like combs it over and it like lays over here. It's barely within regs. But he gives me a hard time because I'm friggin' bald. And don't mind that. That's literally from me bumping my head in the aircraft after taking off my helmet this weekend. But so he's like, if you can't flip your hair when you take off your helmet, are you really a flight medic? And so I was like, okay, whatever. Cool, cool story, bro. But yeah, that would be really cool to be able to, if your character has long hair, to be able to do a hair flip, as an emote, especially after taking off your helmet. He says, I wasn't joking about the build. They were pushing builds to the last minute. Will's laptop broke and he had to borrow Yogi's laptop and was complaining about his German keyboard layout. Oh, geez. Yeah, I attempted a hair flip without hair and I was punished for it. Does the Baywatch theme play when he does it? No, but I'm going to put that on my phone for the next time he does it. Just to mess with him. He's a good dude, but we always go back and forth about the hair, and he gives me a hard time because he can out PT me, and I'm like, dude, I'm a decade older than you, and I did 4 years of active duty in the infantry. Like, get fucked, bro.
Is this working? Yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's a privilege to be here back on stage to tell you all about what you can expect about the player interaction experience inside your cockpit. If you like, I've told you before how we've been working towards improving the player interaction experience all across our game. And we wanted to bring these improvements to what happens inside the cockpit. So we wanted to give you a greater immersion and Okay. Yeah, the slides are not, sorry about that. Yeah, so you want to give you a greater immersion and give you a closer experience to what pilots go through in real life, not only when you're flying around your ship, but the moment you take your seat at the cockpit. So to achieve this, we've created when you enter your ship, you'll be put in what we call a new relax pose. So in this pose, you'll have free look enabled, so you can easily look around the cockpit and your dashboard. The prompts will be showing over the buttons, so you can easily find the ones you have to interact, and you, the pilot, have to press all the different buttons to get your ship ready for flying, and the character hands will be lowered away from the control stick. So all of this blends neatly into our new player animated interaction system, whereby any button is now physically pressed. So this new system uses what we call a CDIK approach. This stands for code-driven IK, or inverse kinematics, and gives full control of the IK setup to the code. So this, among other things, allows us to record the path of the hand relative to its target. So we can have more detailed animations than just simply blending the hand into position. So for example, we can open a flap and then press the button. But enough of me talking, let's go jump into the demo and see all of this in action. So now. So Brand very kindly will get us into the ship while you'll see the new enter sequence. And you'll see the new animations we have been working on.
I like how there's just a starfarer flying around in the background.
So you can see now that you won't directly grab the control stick. You'll be put on this relax pose with free look enabled. And you can see the different prompts appear over the buttons. So let's get this show started and get your ship ready for flying. So Brand, if you could close the canopies.
I like how she mentions that free look is enabled. So we don't know if he was using Toby or if he was just using his mouse. But the experience is the same, and I think that's really cool because it allows people who are not using a Toby, if the free look is enabled, they can just move their mouse around, and you look for this button, look for that button, and everything. You just look around, F, 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 and you're pressing the buttons and getting your cockpit, closed and getting power on and engines on and such. And I think it makes for a very, you don't have to do it every time. You can just, press a button or whatever.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Ship. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the
Part
crew.
of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Jessica Scott, 07, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the follow and the support. Really appreciate it. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well this evening. Just capping off a long day of being a space dad. But yeah, I just, I think it's really cool that you'll just be able to look around your cockpit and you can see the thing, and then there's the hotkey. Close the canopy, F. Turn on power, F. Turn on engines, F. And it'll play the animation as you're doing it, and it'll give you the experience if you want it, versus just pressing U to go to flight ready. And it's available to not just people using Toby.
So we don't go flying around with that open. Power our systems. Oh, look at that.
Aegis combat assessment.
And finally turn our engines. Yeah, so you are now ready for flying. So we will be bringing all of this to all of our ships in our fleet. And that's all from me. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Tony to tell you all about the new UI.
Hi everyone, my name is Tony. I'm Senior UI Programmer here at CIG. And I'm here to explain some of the spoilers that you saw yesterday about our new ship UI. So, are you ready to see the ship UI in action? Right. Bone, play the demo. Brand, continue with the demo. So, as you can see already, this ship has less intrusive UI, with more space to enjoy the stunning vistas that planets can offer, and less cluttered views so you can focus during combat. This also means that the UI elements are now more relevant to the situation, linked to the operator mode. For example, when we change to scan mode, the crosshair has scanning information about your target, and even the MFDs have changed. Some of these elements can be customized, but we'll see more about that later. For this demo, we're showing the UI developed for this Gladius. Basic information related to navigation will always be available on your view, and this Gladius displays all of that with holograms around the dashboard. But other ships may have different layouts and styles, on brand with the manufacturer. For example, the Drake, that makes more affordable ships, rather than fancy and probably expensive holograms, may use physical screens, dials, and light indicators. This dashboard shows your current speed, the remaining afterburn, and some decoys available. On both far sides, we have status indicators.
Sorry, thank you, muted. It's just a really clean look, and I love that everything is very readable and organized, and it makes sense, has logic to it, and it's also situational, like certain things won't always be up all the time. And the fact that it's integrated within the HUD so that you don't have things laying on top of each other and not being able to read them. Oh gosh, it's so much better. It just, the usability is just through the roof compared to what we have right now. And the MFDs are really clean looking, very solid.
That will show things like if your landing gear is on or any other flight systems. Worth mentioning that we have prototyped these for the demo, so right now they're holograms, but on the final design, these are going to be physical screens. On the far left, on the top of the dashboard, we have the indicator of which master mode and operator mode are you on. So let's change that to combat and talk about these new MFDs. So we have reworked all of these MFDs from scratch with brand new views using our UI technology building blocks. We can still navigate through these MFDs using the classic mouse interaction, holding F and then moving the mouse. On the left here, we can see the scanning view, which is going to show information that you obtain when you scan a target. It may show information about the ship name, the pilot name, or even the current operator mode of your target, so you know if they're just chilling around or they are ready to fight you. Cycling to the left one, we have the target status, which will focus on emissions, damage, and orientation of your target. We'll see that in action later. The next one, continuing to the left, will be the self status, which is contextual. So during navigation, that will show your current fuel, but during combat, like right now, will show information about your guns. You can click on the gun, and you can see basic information about that. You will see the name, and you can also see in which group they are assigned, which Yogi will explain later. On the MFD on the right side, we have the power management.
If you look at this is basically using that same tech that they used for the maps, and they turned it into a 2D image to represent the Gladius. That's really smart. And it looks cool. The quality bar is a lot higher.
Where we can distribute the power of different systems of the ship. You can click on the triangle and move it around to change the distribution, and you can turn down the total power of the ship that will generate. The classic key bindings that you all know already works, so when you change the power management, you will see now a triangle on top of the radar to show you the changes.
I like how this shows you this is your total output and this is your total usage, and so you'll be able to very quickly and easily to be flying around and doing whatever you're doing and see, oh, okay, if I have my shields on and my engines going and my weapons are powered up and I'm still only using X amount of power percentage out of my output, I can turn my output way down to help reduce your emissions, but also to be more efficient. Yeah, this is part of this is basically how you'll be interacting with resource management, or at least part of it, in your fighters. I'll look like that one panic dude smashing buttons when my shit gets hit by a solar flare. Yeah. Oh God, turn everything off. Yeah. But yeah, this is very visible and easy to use, and it's very easy to see your different. I think these are the emissions right here. So being able to track those, and manage that appropriately and see the results as you manipulate the power management.
Now, instead of using mouse, you can also use key bindings to select MFDs and cycle through the views, which might be faster when you are in certain situations like during combat. And for those pro players out there, we have added about 100 key bindings, and I mean 100, to navigate through all of these systems. So you can fully customize how you want to navigate through them. And I really hope that's more than enough to use on your keyboard, on your HOTAS, or even on your game class setup. But if you need more, just let us know. Anyway, I think you're not going to need even those many shortcuts. For each operator mode, we now persistently save which views are shown on each MFD. So you can customize what's important to you for every situation. So as an example, during combat, you might want to have target information on your MFDs, but maybe when you change to quantum travel, have your current fuel, spend some time on the configuration screen, for example. Let's talk about this configuration screen. We're going to have now here a variety of options, from customizing UI elements to enable systems of the ship. We may see some of these later in action with Yogi. These settings are now available on this screen, not in the global settings of the game, for quick access. So just as a warning, expect changes on the settings that you already know, but we'll tell you all about it when we have it ready.
It looks good too.
And
I really like
the important bit about this is that they will persist to your ship. So you can keep different setup of which UI elements and even ship systems enable for how you personally use each of.
That is really clutch to be able to personalize your fighter versus your SRV or your mole, and not have it have the same things or have to constantly be changing back and forth. It's on you to be able to remember, but having the settings how you want it from ship to ship is a pretty clutch feature. Yeah, Shiori Katsuni says you don't want to be hit by a flare later on. Rather, power down your ship beforehand. Either power down your ship, or I think it's gonna, depending on your shields. I think they've talked multiple times about having the appropriate shielding, and so either having a right type of shields or buffing your shields just beforehand. It's going to be interesting to see how they end up working it, whether it ends up being related to shields or not, or if you do end up, say, oh, you're going to power down your ship before it hits you in order to protect against like the EMP damage and like resetting your systems. So it'll be, the obvious answer is get yourself to the dark side of the planet, moon, what have you. But if not, what other options do you have to, mitigate the effects, if not remove them?
Of your ships. Now, some of you might be thinking that this Gladius doesn't have enough MFDs. Can we enable the top setting? For those of you that you want to see even more information,
this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Being able to say, oh, okay, sweet. I want to have, my target information up here. And that way, if you're not targeting anything, it won't have anything up there. But as soon as you target something, it'll show that. And then have your self status down here. So it's always up, and customize it how you want. But being able to sync your MFDs to your HUD on your visor is just so great. And the fact that this moves around, and so it won't overlap anything unless you're looking at the I hope it will, if you look down at your HUD or your MFDs, like this will disappear or something like that, something smart, so that way you can see your MFDs. But
you can now cast versions of these MFDs to your helmet.
Yeah, they do overlap, so you'll have to be aware of that if you're looking at your MFDs. But if you're looking directly at it, the things on your peripheral view shouldn't be an issue like that.
For this, you're going to need to equip the appropriate helmet, so it's connected to your ship, and I can get all this information. You can use the key bindings, as I mentioned before, so you can...
This is another thing. Equip the appropriate helmet. I guarantee you they're going to tie this to a, like a light helmet, a pilot style helmet, and it isn't going to offer you the same functionality that your heavy armor, ground combat helmet will. And so that will, incentivize you to use piloting gear versus, oh, I'm going to go in my, FPS gear in my fighter and go fly around and dogfight. And it's one suit for all things. No, this is how they're going to differentiate your armors and incentivize you to wear the right gear for the job.
You can select which cast do you want to control and how to cycle through them. So you can pin views that are important to you that will move with your camera. So as you have seen, if you're aiming at the target or if you're moving with your head tracker, those views are going to be always with you. With all these tools, you can customize your experience and have it ready for every situation that you encounter with your ship, always displaying the relevant information to you. So for example, during combat, you may want to have all the UI elements enabled, all the pips, all the crosshairs, so the information of your ship on the physical MFDs, and maybe focus on the target information on your cast, so they're always on your view. But maybe when you go to quantum travel, you can turn those casts off so you can enjoy the vistas. That's all from me. Now we have MFDs ready, and let's bring Yogi back to tell you all about flying your ship. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this point, our ship is fully powered up, ready to fly. Pre-flight is complete. So Brent, please take off, put the landing gear in, and bring us out. Have you seen the interaction? This is great, isn't it? Okay, so one of the problems we always have in space games is to produce a sense of speed. Space is big, and the sense of speed is always produced by, small things going around you. So although it's not very visible here, the VFX team has actually added space dust, so in the future you can tell where your ship is going, even without looking at instruments. Another thing we're focusing on as well is G-force reactions. So Brent, if you could come to a stop for a second. When your ship is sitting like that, and you strafe left and right, you have these small head motions that basically make your...
I really like the immersion of this. You saw how he put on the brakes and the space brake and came to a halt. The character leaned forward, just like if they were experiencing those G's, and it was putting you up against your harness, and your head's like leaning forward, and then you're strafing left and right. Now I know that this, some people might complain, because I could see how it might make you a little bit nauseous, but at the same time, if you're flying around in a spaceship, I don't know how you can fly around in a spaceship and not get nauseous if these things are bothering you. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they give you the option to turn these off, because it's not just for immersion purposes, but it's also a gameplay ability. It's not like you can turn off your force reactions when you're walking around in your ship, so that way you don't fall down when you get hit by a missile. So it'll be interesting to see what options you have, because obviously, this isn't just flying force reactions. This is if you take hits, it's going to shake your character around, just like when you get, shot, and your camera view moves around in order to impact your aim.
Your head and your body react to the G-forces they're currently enduring. We're actually increasing them now. We also added rotational G-forces into the mix, so if Brand is now rotating the ship to the left, you also can see that your head is swaying a little bit. Things get a little bit more interesting when Brent is actually taking boost into the mix. So if he now boosts forwards, we now added a camera shake, we added FOV changes, and this all then plays together with the other things like the other exhaustion effects that we have. So overall, the ship should now feel a little bit more reactive than before.
I love being able to you're thrown back in your seat.
At the same time, we reduced the extensions that that the look-ahead code is doing. So we basically narrowed it down a little bit so it mixes better with G-force reaction, so that even when you don't have a head tracker or something like that, it will still feel pretty good. But this is just a minor change. We also improved the flight controls themselves. So take a look at the speed gauge, for example. It's a little bit twitchy today. What that speed gauge is telling you, the number that's currently moving, is what kind of speed goal Brent is actually putting in. If he puts his stick all the way forward, the left one, you will now be able to see and read the number that you're asking IFCS to speed and forward momentum. This also allows us to bring back the sticky throttle we had pre 3.5, where now, if you play with mouse and keyboard, you can press W and S to increase and decrease your speed and let go of the key, and the ship will not automatically come to a stop. Of course, this is all completely configurable, so you can enable that or not if you want.
That's really nice.
Oh.
That's a big help to people who are using mouse and keyboard, which is a lot of people. I would imagine most people don't fly with sticks because sticks are an additional investment and such. But having that sticky throttle it's going to be very handy. But I do like the throttle. Obviously, it's a little bit glitchy right now, but I like that it differentiates. You're able to clearly see what you're trying to you're trying to get ISCS to give you, and what your current actual speed is, and where you are relative to that goal. I think that's pretty dang smart and intuitive.
Okay, Brent, give me some hard flying now, like blackout and all that. Okay, so another thing we changed in the flight model is that we actually looked at the tricoding exploits. These are really important for PvP and racing players among you, because tricoding gives us a mathematical problem that we're trying to resolve. On some ships, when you tricode, you get actually up to 50% more acceleration. That huge difference actually makes a lot of the ship difference meaningless, so we're cutting back on those. So a first implementation of that is already available in the master mode testing areas in 3.21, I think. But we're improving the algorithm right now so that it actually is less punishing in future master mode builds. This is actually a current version, so as long as you go roughly forward, you get the full Gs from your back engines. Okay, so now the biggie in the room. We're talking master modes.
I'm not a dogfighter, so I won't provide much commentary on the things relative to dogfighting, but I'm looking forward to hearing the master mode stuff.
Master modes is by far the biggest change we're doing on the ship gameplay. In general, all of your ships will be put into, or will get a master mode setup. And the master mode is affecting basically everything surrounding everything on the ship. The ship itself, the flight model a little bit, but specifically the items and what they do. And there are two master modes we're going to talk today about. One is SCM, which stands for Space Combat Maneuvering, and the other one is Navigation. So let's look into SCM. SCM is the mode that Brent currently has active. So you see the, Brent, can you go into the indication, please, for the master mode? Just point with the mouse there, if you can. Yeah, so this is your current master mode. It says SCM. When you use SCM for basically all the gameplay that is not traversal. So combat, mining, salvaging, you're using it for that. You have full access to your combat system. Your shields are working, your thruster boost is fully active, your weapons are working. It's the high...
Shuri Katsuni says, for now, Master Mode, in my opinion, feels too much balance around fighters and dogfighting. That's because it was developed for Squadron. And so, we're waiting to see what that's like for non-dogfighter ships, especially those outside of Squadron. But that's, the reason it's only available like on the Gladius and whatever in Arena Commander is because it was built for Squadron and it's getting ported over. But they built the framework and the structure for the system, but they still have to bring all the ships into that system and then balance and tweak those to give you the feeling that they're going for. Ghost 1800 says you will always see general and combat features tested on the Gladius first. Yep.
Performance, high alertness mode that you're in. However, we will heavily restrict how fast we can go. We can go with your ship. Okay, Brent, go to full max speed. So this Gladius on max speed and SCM can reach about 225 meters per second. That might seem slow compared to what you have in the Pew right now, but it's still pretty fast. However, you can extend that speed. Brent, if you just go forward and boost. So the Gladius can extend up to 550 meters per second. On this slide here, you can see the speed spaces we're talking about. So if you're just flying around in SCM, which is like the max speed of your ship, you can reach the 225 meters per second. If you boost, you can reach up to 500 or 550. However, that boost space is not spheric. That means if you boost forward, you reach higher speeds than if you boost backwards. That is really important for space combat maneuvering or for dogfighting in general, because it discourages backstrafing. It actually punishes.
Yeah, sure. I'm really not concerned with the multiplayer, single player aspect. I don't see any sort of difference in the gameplay. The gameplay is going to be different. Master modes is going to affect bigger ships and industrial ships different than dogfighters. But single player versus multiplayer is to me a non-starter of a question, because it's how you use the ship, and whether if you're dogfighting NPCs versus dogfighting players, you're still using the same master mode, and it's really going to be up to the player to know how to use the master modes appropriately. Are we going to need to see a lot of fine tuning to get this feeling right and differentiating between dogfighters and your mole or your reclaimer and such? Yeah, that'll come with time. But I think it's a misnomer to say that, oh well, we've only seen this with the Gladius and they're only working on it for the dogfighters, and that they haven't talked about it or discussed it or thought about anything beyond that. There's no way in hell that they have gone through.
Part of the crew.
Yo Meg, thanks for the follow.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew,
part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Yo Meg, hope you're doing well. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, brace yourself. But yeah, there's two master modes, but within you have the essentially one mode of travel within the SCM, and then when you go into quantum mode, there's essentially like three modes of travel. And so we'll see that here in a second, but I guarantee you they have prototyped and holy shit. shit.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Holy shit.
Part of the crew, part of the man.
Oh my god. We just got raided.
Part of the
Whoa.
part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the
Oh,
crew,
man.
part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the
Oh
crew.
man.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew.
Okay, I'm gonna have to.
Part of
I'm
the
gonna have to.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Thank you so
Part
much
of
for the
crew,
raid.
Part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Hold on, I have to. I
Part
have
of
to
the
turn
crew.
that off.
Part of the ship.
Otherwise, we won't
crew,
get
part of
anything
the
done.
Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
I think that did it.
Part of the crew,
Oh
part
god,
of the ship.
I don't know how to turn it
Part of
off.
the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew.
I thought I muted it. I thought that did it.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
I'm gonna have to figure out how
Part of the
to
crew.
turn that off.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
It's better that you can't. Yeah, there's a way to turn it off. I just don't know what that way is.
Part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
I guess we're just gonna suffer through it together. Okay. The Soul Citizens, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you for your support. Love all your faces. Got to see all the Soul Citizen folks. Well, not all of them, but the ones that were at CitizenCon, which is a.
Part of the
Oh,
crew.
here we go. Here's another
Part
one.
of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Oh,
Part of the
Jesus.
crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Wait for it. Wait. Okay. Are we safe? Not that I don't appreciate the follows. I love the follows. Really appreciate the support. Yeah. But anyway, so thanks again, Soul Citizens, for the raid. Really appreciate your support, y'all. Hope you guys had a great stream. I think we were actually covering some of the same stuff, so I won't have, my feelings won't be hurt if people bounce out, because we're going over the Taking Flight presentation, followed by Fix It and Fly It after that. And just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. And as a reminder, and you see in the Moobot in chat, I take no monetization for myself. So any and all monetization I receive from Twitch gets donated 100% to stackup.org, which is a charity that supports veterans and helps connect veterans and military members of the military with video games and gaming communities to combat PTSD. So I get paid by Twitch, and then I take that money and I round it up to the next highest $50 and I donate it to stackup.org. Same with my YouTube monetization. So thanks again for joining me this evening. Hope you find this information interesting. And I imagine everyone who was in my chat beforehand already follows Soul Citizens, but if you don't, go give them a follow, show them some love, show them some support, especially the individuals that are part of Soul Citizens: Yo-Yo Meg, Big Black Gaming, Black Intellect, Griffin Gaming RPG, Fastcart, all those folks. Awesome people. One of these days, I'm going to get the follow command in working, but I haven't done that yet because I'm just really bad at this stuff. I'm such an amateur. But yeah. Oh, thank you so much, North End Trooper, for putting the link in chat. But yeah, just thank you so much for the love. Really appreciate you guys. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday and a great week. I know I am.
Part of the
Oh,
crew.
God damn it.
Part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the man. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
You guys are a bunch of mad people, mad lads. Okay, cool. Turn me up. Yeah, Oh gosh. Okay. Is it safe to play the video? Should we do it?
I swear by my pretty floor bonnet, I will end you.
God damn it, Ghost. Okay, so continuing on. Like I was talking about, I don't think it's I think it's a bit inaccurate to say that they haven't considered anything for other ships. Yes, they've only built it for the dogfighters and for squadron, but I guarantee you they didn't go into just they've built it for these, but I guarantee you they've prototyped it, they talked about it, they've got design docs, they've considered everything else for the other ships. They wouldn't have gone forward with this and using this as the system and getting ready to implement it into Star Citizen, the PU, without having done work on that beforehand. They're not just going into it and be like, well, it works for dogfighters, so it should work for your Argo Mole and your Drake Caterpillar. The issue is we haven't seen any of that work yet, and we're waiting to hear more about it and how that's going to work. But you also have to remember is that a big part of this is they're reducing your speed. They're bringing combat closer, and so you're going to see speed reductions for those other ships. We're going to have everything brought down into a more narrow bubble. And so there's going to be differentiation between like how fast things change over from SCM to the quantum mode, and how quickly your shields and weapons get powered back up and powered down. There's going to be a lot of fine tuning. It's going to take some work. And the good thing is they have expanded the team that does this for the PU. So thankfully that they're going to be able to continue to work on this and get the ball rolling on it and roll it out to the rest of the ships, in hopefully not too long of a period of time. But I think it's just a matter of you can expect that your top speed is going to be, dramatically changed for every ship, and that's all there is to it, but it's not so much the speeds, it's the because you can still achieve those top speeds when you're in that quantum mode, but you just have to be cognizant of the fact that you don't have the same shields and weapons and everything else that you did before. Yeah, F-16 with no engine, the glide ratio. Yep. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how it plays out. It's one of those things that I'm really not that concerned about it. And yeah, like you can see right here on screen, SCM boost still 500 meters a second, and you're going to be able to tune your ship and dial in, adjust how much boost is available to you based off of your own gameplay and what you do to your ship. And you're still going to be able to achieve that very high speed mode if you're doing your super fast low flying. You can still do that. You just won't do it in space combat mode. You'll be doing it in the maneuvering mode. And the no speedy backstrafing. This is it's really going to make the combat dynamic very interesting. Yeah, just because they say the whole A can enter Atmo with cargo doesn't mean it's going to work well. And I think that's a really good point, Ghost, because this is just one aspect, but this combined with what we're going to be seeing here in a few minutes is going to dramatically change the way we fly our ships and the way we move around in the universe in our ships, not just in space, but in atmosphere. And but wait, there's more, because we're talking about, the game really needed it. And after this stuff, and the control surfaces comes in, is when we're going to see a lot more adjustment and fine tuning of the thruster efficiency curves. They built the tech for thruster efficiency curves to work, but it's basically it's not really a curve right now. They just have the ability to adjust that curve, and they haven't adjusted it because we haven't had this in the control surfaces. So let's get back into it and continue watching. And find out more about what Yogi has to say.
Backstrafing, and it creates more interesting combat maneuvers. The PvP players among you, they basically call this encouragement to closing the gap, which is basically more forward-centric combat, which is much more exciting than backstrafing and just trying to get some shots on. It also forces you as combat players to
just so I'm not trying to type that answer out. Harlequin74 says, random noob to the question channel. 0311 is a grunt, but you have a corpsman symbol. So when I was an infantry marine from 2003 to 2007 on active duty, did 2 tours in Iraq, and after that I spent 10 years as a civilian, and then in 2017 I joined the Army National Guard as a flight paramedic. So I'm a flight paramedic for the Army National Guard here in Idaho, as well as a civilian flight paramedic. The Trio 311 though is my tag that I've had since like 2004. Yeah, it's been a long time.
To commit to the decisions you did earlier in the fight. So it's going to be, we think it's much more exciting. Okay. So in short, you pick SCM when you need to fight, when you want to fight, or when you need to fight, right? The thing with the master mode switches is that they do not happen instantly. They take a while to move over. So we're now going to put our ship into the second mode, which is navigation. So navigation mode is basically the opposite of SCM. What this does, it gives you a high-speed, low-performance mode. Your shields, they will collapse. Your weapons will not be able to fire. Your defensive systems will not be functional. But you have higher speeds. So in nav mode, you can still reach the speeds of what you have currently in the PU, something, I mean, depending on the ship, sometimes 1,000 meters or 1,400 meters per second.
That's the crucial thing. In nav mode, you can still reach the speeds that you are able to reach in the PU. So all that stuff is still there, still available.
But all your regenerative systems, so regenerating the weapon capacitor, your thruster boost, will be inhibited. So this means when you want to go fast, you need to be very, very careful when you want to swap over. So imagine you're in a fight and you want to escape. You should not do it right away, because if you just swap to navigation mode in the hope to flee, you are being left with no shields. And the first thing that will go offline when you are hitting with distortion guns is the quantum drive. And that is important because the quantum drive will spool automatically up when you enter nav mode, and it will then unlock the higher speeds. So this means when you're in nav mode and you're fighting, you're very vulnerable, so you should get out as fast as possible.
So, and he said it will greatly reduce all of the regenerative things. And so by regenerative, your shields regenerate, as well as your ammo pool for your energy weapons. And I think that probably includes your boost. And so with nav mode, you'll be able to reach your higher speeds, but you essentially, if you use your boost to get to that high speed, then your boost won't recharge, or will recharge very slowly. And so 3 different things. Now, if you're using ballistics, okay, well, you'll still have your ballistic weapon. So that's something to consider. But and you also might be able to help mitigate this with how you outfit your ship in terms of your shields by picking a shield that has a larger shield pool versus a regeneration rate. How you manage your shield capacitors. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all ends up playing out, because some people may want to be able to switch around. Doesn't any weapons fire interrupt the quantum effect or something? I don't know. That's a good question, Ghost.
Luckily, navigation mode not only allows you higher speed, but also gives you access to the new quantum travel experience, which we're going to show in a minute. So that is nav point that you see there on screen. This is the point where I want to go to and quantum travel to. Before we do that, I need to quickly explain what this is about. So currently in the PU, when you quantum travel from A to B, you're actually not really moving. You're going on a spline, and you're teleported in every frame along that spline. So there's basically no meaningful gameplay we can add there. The new quantum travel experience is fully physicalized. Physics is always on, which means when you quantum travel from A to B, you're actually accelerating using our awesome physics engine. And because it's physicalized, gives us a lot more meaningful gameplay we can play with. So Brent will start the quantum travel in a second. What will happen then is your quantum drive will initiate the jump. You will see an effect that distorts the space around you, and you will accelerate forward. During the acceleration process, so this is the time until you actually reach your cruise speed, the ship will experience forces, and you as a player, you're responsible to counter these forces. So there is an element of failure. Okay, Brent, let's show that. And take your hands off. So what you just saw is basically the failed attempt to quantum travel. Brad wasn't countering the forces, therefore he was thrown out. The quantum.
So Citizen Ninja, that's a good question. So I think that when they're talking about the forces, if we were to go back and you could see that I think they're talking about the forces on the ship in terms of you have to stay aligned. If you don't maintain that alignment, your quantum bubble will fail. Now, the way quantum travel works is it's sort of a version of the Alcubierre drive. Oh, fuck, ads. Okay, so the ads are done. Okay, cool. Oh gosh, I don't know, and I haven't played around with it, so I don't know how to mitigate them. But God, they've gotten so long. Hey, Socially Confused, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So Citizen Ninja, and this is for everybody. I'm going to drop a link in chat. This is from Chris Roberts himself as of March 2019. This is actually his the Spectrum post, the last Spectrum post he did prior to responding to Terrata a couple months ago. It was over 4 years. But basically he broke down everything we know about quantum drives and how they work. So
Part of the crew.
Oh, Jad, thanks for the follow.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
So with the way that quantum travel works with the Alcubierre drive, you shouldn't experience G forces. I think what they're talking about with the forces on the ship is that the forces are on, if you don't counter the drift of the nose out of your quantum, it's not a tunnel, but your quantum travel zone, in order to maintain that bubble and that direction to travel. If you don't counteract that force, that's what makes you fall out. But I don't think that you're going to be experiencing G-forces. I don't think that part has changed, because that's part of the lore surrounding quantum drives. That's why if you get, quantum travel interrupted, by an interdiction, or, align to a planet and you quantum to that planet, once you get to a certain point and the gravity, the gravitational force of that planet, that field, interrupts your quantum bubble, you aren't thrown out of your seat when you stop. So it's actually pretty good reading. It's kind of long, but it's worthwhile. And so I don't think that those were force reactions or forces in terms of G forces that players will feel but I think it's just talking about the forces on your ship that you have to counteract with an input. That way you can't just start quantum travel and get up and go pee. You have to get the ball rolling. But what he'll talk about here in a second is how once you counteract those initial forces, then you're good. And you'll be able to continue on and continue straight. So if you're at a long quantum jump, then, you can take the risk that, okay, I shouldn't get interdicted or something like that. And I should be able to get up and run to the bathroom and go make a snack, come back, in a few minutes.
Quantum bubble collapsed and threw you out. Your ship doesn't like that. IFCS needs 5-6 seconds to recover from that, during which time you're just tumbling, right? So and this is not just dependent on your skills. If you think.
So I think that you will experience force reactions with your ship tumbling like that, because you don't have ISCS to counteract it. I think that's different versus if you come out of quantum on purpose. Now, the question is, if you get interdicted, will this happen? And how do they balance that? I think that's the question that we should probably be asking and wondering is, if you get interdicted, inadvertently come out of quantum travel and IFCS isn't ready, you haven't smoothly transitioned from quantum travel mode to SCM mode, what happens? Because that could really impact the balance between people doing the ambushing and the ambushees.
Selecting a proper quantum drive doesn't matter in the future. Think again. If you want to take care of your quantum drive, you want to repair it and keep it in good shape. So if you buy a cheap one, your travel will not necessarily be faster, but it might be harder. Okay, so Brent shows how it's done properly.
So you can see the hand moving to counteract and keep this circle right here, keep them, he's counteracting the forces against the ship, with inputs. And now he's bubble locked.
The bubble is locked. You can now go hands off.
Now you can go pee. And you see how he smoothly exited out from quantum in terms of the transition. He's immediately putting inputs and he's flying. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that works in terms of, do you get the same effects when you get yanked out of quantum by an interdiction device as you do when you fall out of quantum if you don't maintain those inputs? And I think that's one thing that he said, that with the quantum drives, the amount of input that you have to put in, for a cheaper quantum drive might require more input, might be harder to control. So I think it's fun and interesting that they're making quantum travel actually have gameplay, at least on the front end, and differentiating more in the drives besides just speed and fuel efficiency.
Okay, so there's a second variant of quantum travel, and this is for short-range jumps. Sometimes you jump somewhere or you go somewhere, and you see the next point of interest is like 1,200 kilometers away. We're not going to force you anymore to travel that by hand. You will use a technique called quantum boosting. It's a quantum-based short-range jump.
Yeah, Citizen Ninja, not only is it have more gameplay and more dynamism and more interest, it makes it more interesting, it also looked so much better than what we have right now. And you saw how smooth it was. I have a beastly rig, and quantum travel still lags on my machine almost every time. It's got all sorts of hitching and frame drops, and yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and Harlequin, that's another really good question. Curious what will happen when you kill the engines mid-jump. Because you might still have a reason to do that. But I think that, that we won't have to kill the engines to pull out of quantum. I think that we'll probably, have, and they're not, I don't think they show anything of that here, but I think there's going to be a way to, interrupt your quantum travel rather than just killing the engines. That random freeze when leaving a planetary system makes me panic for a split second every time, because you're wondering, am I going to just quantum into the planet and blow up? Socially confused. Oh my gosh, I hate my Pioneer autocorrect. I don't know what your autocorrect is doing, but yeah, it's making you sound real drunk, bud. But yeah, the all the quantum travel stuff looks so much better. It's really, really good looking. Mentalic Mutant donated $5 to stackup.org. Thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you going the extra mile to support StackUp. And just a reminder, if you hate the ads, I try to pause for the ads just because people have to watch them. But if you don't want to have to watch the ads, and you can get rid of that by subscribing, that money goes to stackup.org as well. I don't keep any of it, so it gets rid of ads and it goes to a good cause. The other thing is if you can donate via the little click button thing, and it'll show up on the counter at the top of chat, or you can use the oh gosh, I forget the command. It pops up. Yeah, if you go up to the one of the Moobot posts, and you click on the donor drive, and that shows up. That'll change the little chart thing at the bottom of the screen. Because so what happens with Twitch is they take that money that's at the top of the chat, and like every 3 to 6 months is when they'll push that out to stackup.org. And so it's a bit of a clunky system. And so it works a little bit better, and no worries, Metallic Mutant, it all goes the same place. But in the future, if you guys are interested in donating to stackup.org, use the link that Moobot puts in chat. And I think the command is stackup. Is it that? There we go. So that's the stackup thing. And what's the I'll have to remember look up the command again. Death Trooper 177, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We're going over the Taking Flight presentation from CitizenCon.
For like something between a couple of 100 kilometers to like 30,000 kilometers or so. When you use quantum boosting, the process is practically the same, but the quantum bubble will not stabilize itself, so you need to be hands-on for the whole time, and the speeds are naturally, well, slower, but it's not slow, it's still quantum traveling, right? Okay, so Brent, can you boost to, oh, reinforcement needed. Yeah, let's go there, let's boost. Oh, actually, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so what Brent is currently showing here is, I think I forgot to mention, quantum boosting works in every direction. You don't need nav points.
This is such a huge quality of life upgrade. Being able to quantum boost in any direction, no more nav points needed, no more, trying to, okay, I need to go to this mission point, but I can't quantum to it, so I'm going to quantum to this outpost over here, and I'm going to kill my engines at this point, try to time it right, and then slow boat it over there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This cannot come soon enough. Like everybody else is, master modes and dogfighting and bringing speeds in. I don't give two craps because I'm not a dogfighter. I'm a dropship pilot. I want to be able to get to my target and figure out where I'm going. And when I'm doing my 0 to hero, salvaging and retrieval missions, I want to be able to easily find the points of interest without having to, quantum lock to them. It's just such a huge improvement. Ghost 1800 says it will still pull us out a certain distance away from a planet moon, right? Yes. I don't think any of that is changing in terms of how quantum works, in that you can't maintain a quantum field close enough to anything with a gravitational field. That's how you won't go splat into a ship, because it'll drop you out and you'll lose, you don't have inertia built in. Same with a planet, moon, asteroid belt. As soon as you get close enough to it where the gravitational field interrupts your quantum bubble, it will pull you out. I think he said for speed, or no, I don't know if they gave us a speed. I thought it was just for ranges of, or maybe the speed was like 50,000 kilometers per second or something like that. I don't remember. But quantum boost is less speed than quantum travel, because it's a shorter distance and you're not aligning, you're just pointing to it and engaging. I think maybe he's going to say here in a second.
Brent is awesome, thank you. Okay, so now please boost to reinforcements needed. So if there's enough points and you boost, your quantum travel system will pick that knife point to go to. Well,
so if there's a nav point, so if you scan and you detect something, or your mission marker or anything like that. It will use it. It will pick that point. That's why it disappearing when you go into quantum boost mode isn't a big deal, because it essentially aligned to that point.
Welcome to Pyro 3.
These AR markers and the stuff that's popping up, I'm assuming this is popping up on your visor. I'm not sure how these are working, or if these are AR markers as well. I really like this system. I do think it needs a little bit more cleaning up just for readability's sake, but I do think that this is a big improvement over what we have already.
As you can see, there's a lot of UI happening right now. There's a lot of context there. And this is not an online demo, it's a single player. So that means all these units there, they're friendly and hostiles, they're probably fighting with each other, which is a good segue to talk about AI improvements. And there's one man who can tell you all about AI. This is the man with the nicest legs at CIG. Well, please welcome Diego Marty Mason.
So who's excited to see the new AI changes? Hi everyone, as Yogi said, my name is Diego Marty Mason and I am the AI programmer focusing on the fly combat. Over the past year, we've been working on delivering a thrilling experience to the AI encounters. Let me first walk you through our journey. We first started looking at the current AI behavior in the PU. We quickly realized how uniform fighting was, and how we were not using all of the tech available to us to make a more interesting experience. We had the foundations, and we wanted to learn more about how you, the players, do your combat encounters in the verse. So we did this by getting combat recordings, analyzing videos, and internal playtesting, where we were hammering each other for hours. It was fun, unless you went up against experienced fighters like they are. Anyway, with all of these data, we started crafting the first prototype, with the focus of bringing that human behavior into the AI brain. When the first version was ready to be...
He does look like he's pretty tall, but it's hard to tell. I just remember I talked to Sylvan for a while after I talked to Benoit when I was at CitizenCon, and Sylvan is like 6'6". He's maybe even taller. Sylvan is at least 3 or 4 inches taller than I am. I'm 6'2". So
we tested, I handed it out to one of the best internal pilots in the team, Yogi. So Yogi, what do you think about my first prototype?
It was an exercise of humility. It was an exercise of humiliation. I hated it, and I blame Diego.
So this was due to the AI being able to keep a good range control and a perfect orbit around their target while maintaining a constant firing solution. Come on, it's a computer. We learned a lot from our initial prototype, and it really helped us to define what we wanted to deliver. A combat experience where the AI, yet challenging, makes mistakes, just like us, humans. We want players to leave every combat encounter with a feel of satisfaction by encouraging you to keep on the move and make use of the vehicle systems available to you, so you can at least try to win the fight. Let's see how we brought this new iteration of combat to life. We broke down in multiple stages. The first one, interception. Then the main engage phase, which we broke in different tactics: strafer, jouster, chaser, and finally, disengage. Let's switch to the demo. As you can see, Brent has encountered a skirmish. Let's talk more about the combat flow there. Okay, we will start with interception. After acquiring the target, the primary aim is to close the gap with the target. If the AI is already near the target, the interception phase is skipped completely. If it's too far, it will tell the AI to use the new master mode to swap into navigation mode and make use of the full speed to chase, swapping back to SCM mode when we are in striking distance. That leads us to our second phase, engage. Here the AI selects an adequate tactic based on combat environment. These are chosen via the traits and tactic selector system. You've heard more about them in the previous talk by Francesco. So let's talk.
I do love the look of, you can see all these projectiles just flying off into space, and they are rendered and everything and visible and such way far out, and it makes the fighting look so much better when these things don't just despawn at their max range and such. And then the UI is so much more visible against these bright planets that we have with the glow, having a high contrast red and green available. It makes it so much easier to visualize things. But the only thing I think is a little bit overdone is the impacts, and seeing the flashes. It kind of drowns everything out, the sparks of the hits.
About the strafer. As this is a 6 degrees of freedom game, it's the natural combat shape adopted by pilots. We have related the same behavior to our AI, ensuring also that orbits are close and adding variations to include rolling. Strafers will break combat if they cannot keep an orbit. So now we see how the Hammerhead is being attacked by Hornets. These Hornets are jousters. Jousters consist of performing straight-in attacks whilst outputting a lot of firepower, blowing through, smooth turning, and repeating. We added variations for the more skilled pilots, like skid roll attacks, that provide a spiral-like flight path. Jousters are also good at monitoring for back strafers, so if they cannot get into strike distance, they will just break. And finally, the Chaser. Now, Brain is going to get there in a second, but
and that radar using the new map system, and seeing, whatever inputs he was using to zoom in and zoom out and quickly change how much it shows, that's an incredible feature right there. God, it looks so good.
Chaser is going to be the Cutlass, which is following one of the Hornets and is allied with the Hammerhead.
Look at those projectiles. This is coming from way across the screen and way out.
We are really far
out.
Away, 10 kilometers.
Yeah, you see those sparks? It's a little bit overdone to me.
So the Chaser, it will try to always stay on the target 6. The idea is to force the target into a defensive stance by making them turn into the Chaser. This maneuver will be seen mainly in squads and atmosphere combat. The final phase, which can happen at any time, depending on the combat situation, is disengage. This phase is triggered based on constantly listening to multiple events in parallel. To name a few: critical health, damage to shields, or weapons depleted. There is also a shorter version of disengage that we call pace breaks, which occurs during long periods of combat due to fatigue, nature of the combat encounters. These pace breaks are short, and the main objective is to perform a simple maneuver to gain a new advantage position and strike again.
See, those sparks, that's overdone. That's too much. It looks kind of silly. Maybe if they were smaller and everything, but you see in other screens how they were less just obtrusive. And so I don't know if that's intended, because you saw on other screens where it was a lot less dramatic than that. To me, that's like, that's a bit much. That doesn't look very realistic, and it's kind of overshadows the UI that you're trying to see.
This new flow is what encompasses the core of our new AI fly combat experience, in combinations with AI traits that will give designers the tools to tailor each combat encounter in the verse.
Yeah, see, when you're closer and you can see the ship better, you just see little tiny sparks. But when you're far out, you see these great big blooms, and it looks kind of, it looks kind of ridiculous to me. Like, if you continued to see that would be fine. Yeah, I don't think this is final at all, but it's just something that I noticed. But I do like that the projectiles are continually tracked. And they did say later, I think it was Yogi in a post later on, that weapon ranges are getting way elongated. It's going back to the way it was, and I can't wait for that. None of this, size 4s only go, 4,000 meters or whatever it is. I forget.
Like, for example, they can choose the A-strays that will allow AI pilots to make use of all of the ship's angular velocity so they can keep a more precise orbit. So for some of you out there, it's going to be a good challenge. We've been mainly focusing on fighter behavior, we've also started to follow the same process to other ship types, like gunships.
Yeah, Macklin says, pretty funny they want knife fights but give longer ranges. And I think that's where the spread comes in. But I think it's important to have longer ranges for bigger guns in order to be able to target bigger targets, or especially like if you're in a hammerhead and you've got size 4s, you should be able to target torpedoes at farther out than 4,000 meters. That's nothing, especially when the torpedo range is going to be tens of kilometers. And then you've got maybe size 3s on your Gladius or whatever. Having a bit more range in order to target specific points on a larger ship to try and disable it, with that whole zoom functionality. I think the closing in the range is more for dogfighting than it is, because if you're shooting at a very small target with a weapon that has larger spread, then obviously you're not going to hit it. You're not going to hit it with at 4,000 meters, 10,000 meters, or whatever, and so that you want to get within a couple hundred meters. But if you're shooting at an Idris, you should be able to still hit the Idris because you can still see it. And it just looks so much better with these things flying off well off in the distance and being able to see them when you're 10 kilometers out, and see them flying around.
And capitals. In the near future, we want to deliver an experience where going against a capital ship like an Idris is a tough fight, that unless you bring the right combinations of tools, meaning ships that are equipped to take down capital ships, you will get demolished by their powerful turrets. Now,
so they said when they were first getting ready to introduce the Idris in Xenothreat, that they had to dial down the turret AI because the turrets were able to converge, and they were smart enough that they would converge on a target, multiples of them, and they would just melt everybody too fast. Now, obviously, this is in a closed test environment at CIG, not on the servers that we have that are at single-digit FPS and such. But they got to the point where it wasn't fun. You couldn't win. They would just absolutely destroy you. And now we are going to be going back to that point where they can dial the AI, obviously server meshing dependent, to where it needs to be in order to make Idris's, an actual challenge, and Idris, a javelin, an actual challenge. Because you'll have to bring the right tools to the fight, and you're going to actually have to, land your shots of the torpedoes and such. That's part of the dialing all this in. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see, especially with those fights lasting a lot longer and people having to coordinate and be appropriately equipped. Not just, I'm just going to circle strafe, into perpetuity because eventually I'll wear them down.
After all of the feedback, in our first internal playtest, we've received a lot of constructive and positive feedback. And Yogi's not longer being destroyed by the AI, so I think he likes it a bit more. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the new AI. And back to you, Yogi.
So Macton makes a good point. They say, I hope they do first shot accurate, subsequent shot spread. That's a good thing. And I would even say make it like a rapidly increasing curve that encourages you to fire short bursts. And so like if you do, a 6 to 8 round burst, you only get up to here into, the spread. But if you leave it on full auto, your spread is going to get really wide. Because that's what we do with machine guns. It's a thing. You're essentially limiting the recoil and limiting the amount of walk from being on your initial target. Because Macton, I do think that's a really good point, and that's something that I would really like to see is encouraging people to do that, because you can also make that apply to not just ballistics. You could make it apply to energy weapons as well. And so I hope they do something like that to get people to not just lay on the trigger instead of just using ammo pools. Not everything is a 240 golf from the standing, though. Yeah, yeah, not everything is, but and that's a good way to differentiate different weapon types, though. Is order okay? Well, I want to pick something that's going to have less spread and greater range, but maybe it overheats more quickly or something. I don't know. Gives them a lot of ways to play with it, versus just making it very binary in terms of fire rate and ammo pool.
Thank you, Diego. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, we heard about how AI makes my life hard. Now let's...
Speaking of the 240 Golf and full auto weapons, so my first MOS was 0311 for my first deployment. After my first deployment, I came back and I picked up Corporal, and the machine gun section needed a new team leader. And so I went to the machine gun school and I became an 0331. So I'm both, I have 2 primary MOSs from the Marine Corps, and now I have another primary MOS from the Army. And that I'm a 68 Whiskey Fox too. So yeah, I know machine guns. I was a machine gun team leader and a machine gun section leader in my second deployment in Iraq.
Talk about how to return the favor. We're talking weapons. So the weapon and aiming systems in squadrons, they went through a lot of changes. I can only mention a couple of them, so I will go through them relatively quickly. First thing on our to-do list is basically weapon tuning. At the moment, almost all weapons in the PU are practically the same. In Squadron, that's not the case. Almost all weapons have different properties. They have like different projectile velocities, different DPS numbers. But they're not just different in terms of these numbers. They also feel different. Remember the cinch cannons from like a couple of years ago? They were very powerful weapons, but they were extremely easy to use, which made them meta weapons. So we're going to bring the cinch cannon back, but we make sure that the amount of work you put into these cannons in order to employ them is on par with the other guns. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to do to make sure that weapons have a lot of pros and cons and avoid meta. Specifically for this build, Brent is equipped with a I think a close and burner laser repeater. Can you fire it once? Yeah. And the other weapon he has is he has 2 weapons on the wings, which are Gats cannons, size 3. With 1 push, they're actually firing 2. So we're also gonna have burst weapons and so on. Okay, cool. So.
I love that they're already talking about differentiation between weapons and providing a lot more variation from what we have. Granted, this is going to take a lot of fine tuning and testing, but I'm looking forward to see what they come up with, and not just for dogfighting. This is going to work out well for a lot of different things. Danger Hobo says, I only had to hump the 249. The 240 Golf would have killed me. Luckily, I didn't have to hump the 240 Golf because I was a team leader. But that's part of the reason I got moved over to the machine gun section is because when I deployed the first time, I was issued the 249, and all the saw gunners in the line platoons got cross-trained onto the 240 Golf and the M2 for our Humvees in order to be able to make it so that way the machine gun section could dismount and support dismounted platoons and not have to stick with the Humvees at all times, with those medium and heavy machine guns.
A problem we have in space games is controlling the engagement ranges, because we want to bring the fights close. But the problem is that, well, how do I put this? Weapons usually, in order to bring them close, what the game devs usually do is they just restrict the ranges. Like in the PU, a lot of the weapons have exactly a range of 1,400 kilometers, which means often the fights occur at 1,399 meters. This is not a good way for us to control the weapons. And we tried out things like damage fall off, so that bullets get more damaging the closer you are. But the problem there is, how do you communicate that to the player? So we're going to do a couple of different things with that in the future. Let's see when the graph comes on. Okay, so Show of hands or show, which of you has an Ares? Okay, as an Ares pilot, you might know the following problem. You have a target. You're gonna aim at it. And then you, this is, what the? Okay, I need to go back. Okay, there's actually some stuff not there anymore, I don't know. What happens when you aim with your crosshair over the pip is that you actually not aiming at the pip. The legacy system gives you a pip which does not show you where the weapon needs the pip. The new aiming system actually produces the pips based on where the weapon sees them and reprojects them on the target. That means the aiming information you're getting is actually much
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the
Part of the
crew,
crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
TS Forrest, thanks so much for the follow. Really appreciate the support. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us this evening.
much more precise. And this is a very interesting, sorry, I said the completely wrong thing. I'm sorry, I'm
Come
nervous.
on, Yogi.
Okay. Controlling weapon
You
ranges,
got this,
sorry.
buddy.
I'll do it now, sorry.
We love you. But controlling, so they're vastly increasing the max range, which is great. 07 TS Forest, 07, my friend. They're adding spread to help control the range, and then there's aim assist per weapon. I think this is also a really cool thing to help differentiate weapons, as well as, if you're not a good dogfighter, if you think I struggle with aiming, I'm going to pick the weapons that have the most aim assist, but they're going to have other drawbacks, and so I do think that this is going to give us a much better system that's going to be far more beneficial for more players. Yeah, Yogi's the best. Love Yogi. Define effective fire ranges, just like how it is in real life. You have your max range and your max effective range. They're different things.
Okay, sorry. Okay, controlling ranges. In the future, all the weapons will get much, much longer ranges. Size 1 weapons will fly to up to 5 or 6 kilometers before the despawn. The way how we do this, how we do this,
6 kilometers before they despawn. That's crazy. But it's not only is it going to give you more options, but it's just going to look cool. And that's part of it, is just making these fights, whether they're in space, or in the atmosphere, whether you're targeting something on the ground versus in a dogfight or a capital ship, it's going to look a lot cooler to not just have these projectiles just despawn after 1,000 meters. Yeah, Yogi is great, but Bone is the best. Speaking of Bone, I'll let this play and I'll find it.
we're adding spread. Because spread is for us is a very good indication on how to control the ranges. This is not a one-to-one relationship there, so don't worry, you won't get like spread with like 20 degrees offset or something like that. Don't worry, right? But if we compare the spread of the weapon with the target size, we know when the weapon is in range. We know when you actually are close enough so that the majority of your hits can hit, and we're telling you that via the aiming system now. So Brent, let's go back to the demo. If you get a green pip and a green crosshair, it means you have a high chance of your weapons hitting the target. If Brent takes a little bit of a step back and waits until the pips and the crosshair turn red, this does not mean that the ship is out of range. You can still hit it, but you might waste bullets. This also has the benefit that, I'm not sure if you saw that before, but if you look at how many bullets are in the air, you're actually getting a lot of bullets, a lot more bullets, and it just looks a lot better. Okay, Brent, just...
All right, speaking of Bone. I got to meet Bone. So if you remember from the UI presentation, Bone said, everyone calls me Bone, don't ask me, in fact, ask me later. Well, my community got me to ask me later. So here's the answer, because I got to spend about 30 to 40 minutes talking with the UI team, me and North End Trooper, just hanging out, talking to them about their work. They're just the nicest people.
All right, so I found David Bones, and what was your last name again?
Gill.
I can't hear, sorry.
David Bones Gill, G-I-L-L.
I found David Bones Gill, and he's going to tell us the story about where the nickname Bones came from, and now you all will know.
Hello, everybody. Hello, I'm called Bone.
Gotta speak up.
Hello, I'm called Bone because I'm just a bit thin.
That's it. It's because he's thin.
You heard it here first.
Yes, you heard it here first. Breaking news from CIG Santa Monica. David Gill is called Bones because he's thin. I'm going to go buy him a cheeseburger and he's going to lose his nickname.
Sorry. I had a couple of the free drinks. I was having a really good time. That's why I kept on calling him Bones versus Bone. But yeah, just the nicest guy. The whole UI team was, all the CIG devs that I talked to were just super great. But yeah, that part was fun.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Potato Win. How ironic that we just got a follow from Potato Win. Thank you so much for the support, Potato Win. Really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good time. Speaking of Bone enjoying Idaho, there's evidence. This is Bone on Twitter. So North End Trooper had posted about our upcoming Bar Citizen event here in Boise. And so he said, big up for Boise. I went there straight. He commented on it. I went there straight from CitizenCon to stay in your famous potato. This is a Airbnb that's not far outside of Boise. And so he did have a good time. He and his partner went on holiday, and they decided to go to Boise, Idaho. And ironically, here's Potato Win coming in and giving us a follow and joining us in chat. Thank you. Thanks for coming and hanging out, Potato Win. Is this your house? Is this your Airbnb? Do we have you to thank you for this? Or to thank for this? Yeah, the same size as the one we drop at New Year's Eve. Reminds me of my childhood in Nampa. Yep. All right, let's get back to the presentation.
Just kill these guys now.
Just kill them.
Bam!
Quit farting around, man.
Oh, well. Okay, so that was this one. Okay, the thing you might have seen is that Brent is loaded with size 3 guns on size 3 gimbals. That means we're removing the M-1 system. The reason for that is the original intention of controlling the performance between joystick and mouse players just didn't work out, and the new aiming system is flexible enough to deal with these differences. So we're just removing it and keep going. So next point, pip grouping. If you have different weapons with different projectile velocities, you will get different pips. Because merging the pips makes no sense for us anymore, because the weapons are going to have vastly different projectile speeds. So if Brent, for example, enables all the weapons now, you get separate pips. So let's talk a bit about pip optimizations here. And this is the thing I messed up before.
I like this. The only thing I'm concerned about is being able to readily differentiate between which pip is for which weapon group. That's the only thing I'm concerned about, is because I will forget every time. And so this is going to be good, because it's going to encourage you to make choices. Do I want to pick weapons that all have the same projectile speed and be able to use them all, or am I going to switch back and forth from one weapon group to another based off the situation?
Again, who is an Ares? If you aim at your target, you get a pip, right? Your Ares owners know that. You aim at the pip, you shoot, you miss. And this is because the pip is not being shown where you need it. In the future, we're actually offsetting the pip where the weapon sees it and then reproject this onto the crosshair. Like that. And when you then hit, you hit. No, when you then shoot, you hit. And this is, of course, also communicated by the aiming system. So when the pips turn green and when the crosshair turns green, just shoot. Okay, so now to the actual best part. We cannot take down this hammerhead. It's too big for us. But we can cripple it. The weak points on the hammerhead are the turrets. The way we're going to do this in the future is with precision targeting mode. Brent? Enable precision targeting mode. There we go.
I love this. This is what I've been wanting so bad. The hammerhead has too much armor. You can't take it down with the weapons that you know. And granted, this is for demonstration purposes only. We don't know where they'll be drawing the line, etc. But the hammerhead is an armored gunship, and being able to finally say, "Hey, we can't take it down with the weapons that we have, and we need the best we can do is to say take out its teeth, or gimp it by hitting some of the thrusters, and you'll have to get good. You're going to be well within the range in order to hit these things, and they can shoot back at you. This is what's going to make these fights against larger ships so much more interesting." Yeah, Harley Quinn says I like the zoomed sub targeting. Same. Ooh, girl.
What this does, it does three things. You get this full zoom on the target. You get a lower RPM of your weapons, which increases or decreases the spreads for more precision. And you get the painting mechanic. Anywhere where you put your...
Yeah, socially confused. I think it looks silly in dogfighter fights as well. I mean, I might zoom in when I'm far away just to take a look, or if I want to take a few pot shots from a distance, at farther range with like cannons or whatever. But for the most part, I definitely wouldn't be using it in dogfights. Just because look at how zoomed in you are, and your situational awareness goes to absolute crap. And so yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Your crosshair on that ship, it will tell the gimbal system where to aim at. So if Brent now attacks the turrets, your aiming system will automatically lead the shots. Bam! One turret down.
Sucks to be the gunner in that turret.
Okay, so this hammerhead now understood that it's not good, that doesn't stand a chance right now, but this will be the way how you in the future will fight against sub-targets and so on. The good thing about this, it also works even without painting the target directly, so you can do very, very precise warning shots, and there's no aim assist that kind of like destroys your aiming processes. Okay, so the fight is now over. Sorry, I need to rush this a little bit because I messed up stuff before.
Part of the crew.
And we're going to look at Pyro 3.
Part of the ship.
Okay.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship. Part of the crew.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Part of the crew. Part of the ship.
Jabberwocky, thanks so much for the follow. Really appreciate your support. Thanks for joining us this evening. Hope you're doing well. Welcome aboard. Arr, matey. Yeah, I wonder how many new follows I've gotten this evening. Because I don't think I was over 400. I think I was still like 390 something, and now we're up to like almost 440. Good grief. Y'all are a bunch of crazy people. Love your faces. Thanks for joining me.
Okay, Brent, switch to nav mode and bring us down to that landing spot.
Oh, this is where it gets good, folks. This is where it gets
so Pyro
even
3
better.
is also called Bloom. It's a very big planet with a nice atmosphere. And, oh, something wrong with the throttle? Oh well, something's wrong with the throttle. We'll try to go down as fast as possible, though.
It's too bad that this happened, because this would have been so great to go into nav mode and be able to do this to close that distance.
Gameplay demo might have bugs.
Yeah. Taking that 100 kilometers and not having to slow boat it.
Gonna go there now? Okay. Yeah, steeper angle, that works. Okay, so the thrusters on your ship.
I like how you can also see the radar pinging every few seconds. I think that's really cool. Oh, let's see. Oh, now I remember. Hold on. I say it pinging, so therefore we need to do can I do it without bits? Hold on. Oh, I have to use bits on my own channel. Okay, we'll keep playing it and I'll find it.
They do not like they do like the vacuum of space. We're talking spaceships here, right? And we have thruster efficiency curves on these thrusters. So at some point, especially the MEF thrusters, they will cease working because they don't like atmosphere. They will overheat very, very quickly. So there's the question, what happens when you go down to a planet and you want to rotate your ship with your thrusters off? Well, we'll see. Can you go to external?
Got that radar ping going off every few seconds, so and that all I think about when I see that is this.
Give me a ping, Vasily. One ping only.
Classic.
External view?
Did that work?
Can you
Could you
waggle your
guys hear
tail?
that?
Okay, back first person.
So let's see. In a week, next Sunday, we're going to be doing Armchair Admirals and Generals, and I'm going to be doing two parts. One segment with Solus and Sergeant Tickles, and another part with Night Cobb and Atir Kell. Night Cobb is a big DCS fiend, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Night Cobb has to say about all the Master Mode stuff that they just showed us. Obviously, we knew about it before, but the update to it, and as well as the control surfaces, because the control surfaces is what's going to make Atmo flight really fun and really interesting and really differentiate your space bricks versus your space fighters.
Okay, so what you see here is the new aerodynamics model. Because obviously our left stick is somewhat damaged or so, we can't be as fast as we want. Actually, Brent, can you try W and S on the keyboard instead? Oh, it doesn't work. Oh. No, it doesn't. Yep. Okay. No, the stick is affecting us. Okay. Anyways, we're gonna go down as far as possible.
Womp womp.
So the new aerodynamic system is a complete replacement of the aerodynamic system that you currently have, and you need your control surfaces to actually turn the ship around. It simulates the airflow over your lift surfaces, and therefore, the slower you become, the less effective those control surfaces will be in order to turn your ship. So we can demonstrate this. So if Brent just sits here and yaws left and right, you will see he cannot go further than that. That is in line with what real airplanes also experience when they're trying to use the rudder to yaw left and right. So what Brent can do here is he can roll and he can pull to actually change his direction.
This is so phenomenal. This is really great. And the fact that you experience the G-forces with it just like you would, this is just awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing it on other ships besides the Gladius. Obviously, everything gets demoed on the freaking Gladius, but and not only did they create the simulation, but they also they modeled the dang the control surfaces themselves. So you're going to be able to see it if you're flying in third person. It just looks cool. Yeah, I'll have a new way to crash now. I can't wait.
Okay, so just for this demo, we added a button. The button is called Thruster Disconnect, because at the moment in the PU, when you go through a planet, you're using the thrusters to rotate. We're not doing that anymore. So Brent, disconnect the thrusters, please, and put the ship into a purposeful stall. A stall happens when the airflow over a wing ceases, or over a lift surface ceases. And then at some point, you will not have any authority anymore, and your ship will not turn and so on, and you will basically fall out of the sky. That is naturally a state that every plane wants to avoid naturally, right? And this is happening right here. Brent is not able to use the control surfaces right now because the ship is in a process of stalling. However, the airflow will pull the nose back into the wind, and once you have enough speed, he can actually, well, he gets authority back over these control surfaces. That means for you as players, what you can actually do, you can do aerobraking, you can do pure gliding if you want to. You can even do like competitions like, I don't know, like drop ships out of orbit and then see how far they glide. This is all possible with a new system.
The gliding part is what's really interesting to me, because if you see here, and look over the side, and obviously this is just for like demonstration purposes, but his output on the power plant is this. And it looks like he's all thrusters right now, and usage is this. And so if you wanted to glide and reduce your signature, you could drop, for either you just turn it off your power plant and maybe keep your shields and weapons on, or maybe you turn your weapons and your shields off in order to really reduce your output and really reduce your signature a lot. And I think that this, along with gliding, would be a really cool way to be able to do stealth and not like completely hide yourself, but really reduce your signature and how much you can be, how well or how far you can be detected, whether in order to get to a ground target. Think about for like your Vanguard hoplite. The Vanguard hoplite obviously isn't going to be as aerodynamic as a Gladius, but it's got wings and it should have control surfaces. And imagine being able to, stealthily insert, what is it, 6 seats in the hoplite? 6 seats, right? Oh gosh, I'm brain farting. But being able to insert a team and be able to, come in from across, on the other side of the horizon from a target and glide down to, towards that target, and keeping your signature low, and then not turning on your thrusters until you get, very close to the surface and closer to the terrain. But being able to get down to that terrain on the other side of the horizon from your target while drastically reducing your signatures. I think that's really cool gameplay. I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
So let's talk about the problem. How do you come to a stop now? To come to a stop with the new system, you need to purposefully put the ship into a stall. But don't worry, when we don't have the thrusters disconnected, IFCS will help you. So you're gonna bring down the speed more and more until you're reaching stall speed, which is about now, and then the thrusters will kick in and catch you. That means
Harlequin, getting to go play with Explosive tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope we had a good time. Hope to see you in the future. Be safe tomorrow, and have a good night. Cheers.
However, you are now in a state that the thrusters don't like, right? So at the moment we have turned this up, but in the future you will not be able to hold this for long. So if Brent, for example, now from a hover, straight is left, more left, more left, more left. The wind flow again pulls the ship over, and you go forward again.
It's so good that this is automatic. You bring it to a halt and your thrusters will kick on, but you have essentially a limited amount of time before the thrusters overheat, and then you're up a creek and you need to start going forward again.
Okay, so now Brent, show us how to come to a hover, and do we have some water here? Oh yeah, there's our point, okay. Highway to...
And Socially Confused, you bring up a good point. How many ships have landing gear with wheels? Like, obviously, the Vanguard series has wheels, and I think, the Avenger does as well. It'll be interesting to see if they let us do run-on landings with gear, with landing gear, Oh, does the Avenger have skids? I thought it had wheels for some reason. But yeah, to be able to do a run-on landing. Have done a run-on landing in a Black Hawk, which has wheels, and not a big deal. We do it all the time. Doing a run-on landing in a Lakota or an EC 130, 135, what have you, that has skids, it is a different game entirely. Yeah, the Redeemer has wheels as well.
Okay, so there's our landing point. Can become a little bit slower, I don't know, 100 meters per second. So we're trying to land somewhere here.
Uh-oh, whoops, overshot. We're gonna go in the water. Gonna demonstrate the maelstrom.
Whoa, look at this. Yeah, that water is great, like, awesome. Okay, so now we're coming to a, so now Brent will try to land with a broken throttle.
Nice.
And yeah, he's aided a little bit here by the landing gear. So he has landing gear out, I think, because that automatically enables precision mode at the moment, so that you're a little bit slower. But you can of course like turn this off as a player. And then you come smoothly down to a landing. The best way to land your ship is in decoupled, because you can just like very smoothly land it on the surface.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew,
Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Part of the crew,
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Thank you so much for the follow, Ruthless XXX74. Really appreciate the support. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us this evening.
And clunk. And now you're gonna power down the ship using the new interactions. Engines off first. Then we're in the relaxed pose again, as Ines showed before. Power off. And the canopy off. No, open, not off. Don't put the canopy off.
Without
and get out of the ship. And probably go for a swim or something. Okay, that was a bit of a buggy, bumpy ride, but thank you for taking the time with us. And we'll see you in the verse. Thank you.
Thank you. We just finished the Taking Flight presentation, and now we're going to get started in the Fix It and Fly It presentation. I'm going to switch screens in just a second, but before we do, what he was talking about with landing in decoupled mode, you can do that right now. There's a sort of thing that's, I don't know, it's officially named, but it's called vector hold mode, and I'm dropping a link to a really good tutorial video in chat. I am not good at it. I used to be better at it. I've gotten out of practice, but vector hold mode is really cool for really doing very smooth, dynamic landings. Yeah, landing in decoupled is the only way, but you can basically do some pretty cool dropship stuff with it. So check out that video. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this screen for just a second.